There's a plant that China trusted for 5,000 years. 5,000 years. Let that number settle in your mind. That is longer than recorded Western civilization. Longer than the pyramids have stood in the Egyptian desert. Longer than any modern institution, any government, any corporation has existed. For 50 centuries, generation after generation of Chinese families passed down knowledge of this plant and how to use it safely and effectively. This plant grew in the harsh mountains and high deserts of Central Asia, where extreme conditions forced it to develop powerful compounds for survival. Chinese scholars documented its properties in texts written before the Roman Empire existed, before Greece achieved its golden age, before most of the world had developed writing systems. Emperors valued it as treasure. Healers relied on it as essential. Ordinary families kept dried stems in their homes for everyday wellness support whenever they needed it. One cup of tea from this plant provided what people today buy 10 separate products to achieve. Energy support without the crash, respiratory comfort during seasonal challenges, mental clarity during demanding tasks, appetite management during difficult times, seasonal wellness throughout the year. One plant, one simple preparation, one unbroken tradition stretching back to the very dawn of civilization itself. Then America discovered it. Not the traditional preparation, not the careful dosing refined over millennia, not the wisdom that made it safe. America discovered the active compounds and extracted them, concentrated them, put them in capsules and sold them by the billions. The diet pill industry turned a sacred plant into a profit machine. They stripped away the traditional knowledge. They maximized the potency. They marketed it to people who had no understanding of what they were consuming. When problems emerged, the plant received the blame. Not the industry that abused it, not the corporations that concentrated it beyond recognition, not the marketing that encouraged reckless use. The plant itself became the target. In 2004, the FDA banned ephedra from every store in America. The 5,000-year tradition ended overnight. The plant that China still uses safely became contraband on American shelves. But they made one mistake. They banned selling it. They did not ban growing it. The plant still grows wild in American deserts. You can still cultivate it in your garden. The tradition survives for those willing to learn it. This plant is ephedra, ma huang in Chinese, the ancient wellness ally that America destroyed through greed and then banned to hide the evidence. Today we are opening the file on the plant that supported wellness for 5 millennia. The corporate abuse that turned tradition into tragedy, the ban that protects industries, not people, and the knowledge that authorities hope you never recover. If this matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. The file is open. The history of ephedra begins before written records existed in most of the world. The oldest documented reference appears in the Shen Nong Benkao Jing, a Chinese text compiled around 200 BCE, but containing knowledge far older. This text, attributed to the legendary Emperor Shen Nong, who supposedly lived around 2800 BCE, describes ma huang as one of the fundamental plants in the traditional wellness system. The name ma huang translates roughly to yellow plant with hemp-like properties. The stems are yellowish-green, jointed like bamboo, and grow in arid, mountainous regions where few other plants survive. The harsh environment concentrates the plant's beneficial compounds. Chinese traditional practitioners used ma huang primarily for respiratory comfort during seasonal challenges. The plant opens airways and promotes easier breathing. This application remained consistent across thousands of years of documented use. Secondary traditional uses included energy support during periods of fatigue, mental clarity during demanding tasks, and appetite management during times of food scarcity. The applications were practical responses to real human needs. The preparation method was always the same. Dried stems were simmered in water to make tea. The dosage was small. The frequency was limited. The wisdom was never to overconsume. This restraint was not arbitrary. Traditional practitioners observed over generations that excessive use caused problems. They developed protocols that maximized benefit while minimizing risk. The 5,000 years of use represented 5,000 years of refinement. The knowledge traveled along the Silk Road. Arab traders learned of ma huang. Indian practitioners incorporated it into their traditions. The plant's reputation spread across Asia and into the Middle East. When Western scientists finally analyzed ephedra in the 19th century, they discovered why it worked. The plant contains alkaloids, primarily ephedrine and pseudoephedrine, that affect the nervous system in measurable ways. The traditional observations were scientifically valid. This validation should have led to respectful integration of traditional knowledge. Instead, it led to exploitation. The transformation of ephedra from traditional ally to commercial product followed a predictable pattern. In 1885, Japanese chemist Nagai Nagayoshi first isolated ephedrine from ma huang plants. The pure compound proved far more potent than traditional preparations. Scientists could now concentrate what nature had kept in balance. Western interest grew slowly at first. Ephedrine found use in respiratory support products during the early 20th century. The applications aligned with traditional use. The doses remained moderate. Problems were rare. The shift began in the 1970s when researchers noticed that ephedrine affected metabolism and appetite. Diet culture was emerging in America. The market for weight management products was exploding. Corporations saw opportunity. By the 1990s, ephedra had become the centerpiece of a multi-billion-dollar supplement industry. Products containing concentrated ephedra extracts lined store shelves. Marketing promised rapid results. Dosing instructions encouraged maximum consumption. The traditional preparation involved perhaps 30 milligrams of alkaloids in a cup of carefully prepared tea, consumed occasionally when needed. Commercial products delivered hundreds of milligrams of concentrated extract in daily doses, consumed continuously for months. The traditional protocol limited use to short periods for specific purposes. Commercial marketing encouraged long-term daily use as a lifestyle choice. The difference was not subtle. It was the difference between wisdom and recklessness. The traditional knowledge included contraindications. Certain people should avoid mahuang entirely. Certain conditions made use inappropriate. These warnings were stripped away by marketing that presented ephedra as universally safe and effective. The industry did not care about tradition. The industry cared about profit, and profit required selling as much product to as many people as possible, regardless of consequences. The consequences arrived with tragic predictability that anyone familiar with traditional knowledge could have foreseen. People who should never have consumed concentrated ephedra did so because aggressive marketing told them it was completely safe for everyone. People who should have limited their use to occasional needs continued daily consumption because product labels encouraged it for ongoing results. People who experienced warning signs like rapid heartbeat and elevated blood pressure ignored them because they trusted the products they purchased from seemingly reputable stores. Serious adverse events accumulated throughout the 1990s as the supplement industry grew more aggressive. The FDA received thousands of reports linking ephedra supplements to cardiovascular problems, including heart attacks and strokes. Some reports documented fatalities among young, otherwise healthy individuals who had no idea they were putting themselves at risk. The case that finally captured sustained national attention involved Steve Beckler, a promising young pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles baseball team. In February 2003, Beckler collapsed during spring training practice and died from complications attributed in part to his ephedra supplement use. He was only 23 years old with his entire career ahead of him. Beckler was not using traditional ma huang tea in moderate amounts. He was consuming concentrated commercial supplements while exercising intensely in Florida heat. The circumstances violated every principle of traditional use, but the headlines did not distinguish between traditional preparation and commercial abuse. The headlines simply said that ephedra killed a young athlete. The plant received the blame that belonged to the industry. The FDA acted in December 2003, announcing a ban on ephedra supplements effective in early 2004. The agency cited over 16,000 adverse event reports and approximately 155 deaths associated with ephedra products. The ban was comprehensive. No dietary supplements containing ephedra alkaloids could be legally sold in the United States. The 5,000-year tradition became commercially unavailable overnight. What the ban did not address was why traditional use in China had never produced comparable problems. What the ban did not examine was how commercial concentration had transformed a gentle traditional preparation into a dangerous product. What the ban did not acknowledge was that the industry, not the plant, had created the crisis. The distinction between traditional use and commercial abuse is not subtle. Traditional mahuang tea contains balanced compounds that nature developed together over millions of years of plant evolution. The various alkaloids interact with each other. They modulate each other's effects. The whole is different from the sum of isolated parts. Commercial supplements extracted specific alkaloids and discarded the rest. They concentrated the most active compounds while removing the balancing elements. They created something that had never existed in nature. Traditional preparation involved water extraction, which limits how much alkaloid content transfers into the tea. The process is self-limiting. You cannot accidentally make tea that is 10 times stronger than intended. Commercial production used chemical extraction methods that maximized alkaloid yield. The resulting products could contain concentrations impossible to achieve through traditional preparation. The potency was unprecedented and unnatural. Traditional use was occasional and purposeful. People used mahuang when they needed respiratory support during seasonal challenges or energy support during demanding periods. Nobody consumed it daily for months. Commercial marketing encouraged continuous use. Products were positioned as daily supplements for ongoing weight management. Users consumed concentrated extracts every day indefinitely, building up effects that traditional use would never have produced. Traditional knowledge included rest periods. Even regular users would cycle off mahuang to allow their bodies to return to baseline. This practice prevented the adaptation and escalation that caused problems. Commercial users had no such guidance. They consumed products until they stopped working, then increased doses, then added additional products. The pattern led inevitably toward excess. The FDA banned the plant because the industry had made it dangerous. The plant itself, used traditionally, had supported wellness safely for 5,000 years. The commercial transformation into concentrated supplements created the problems that justified the ban. The ban protected the industry from consequences by placing all blame on the plant. The legal status of ephedra creates opportunities that most Americans do not realize exist. The FDA ban specifically prohibits dietary supplements containing ephedra alkaloids intended for human consumption. The language targets commercial products, not plants. Growing ephedra in your garden is completely legal. The plant is available from specialty nurseries. Seeds can be purchased online. Cultivation requires no special permits or permissions. Ephedra species native to North America, particularly Ephedra nevadensis, Mormon tea, and Ephedra viridis, green Mormon tea, grow wild throughout the Southwest. These species contain lower alkaloid levels than Asian ma huang, but have their own traditional uses among Native American peoples. Harvesting ephedra from wild populations on public land falls into regulatory gray areas that vary by location. Some areas permit harvesting for personal use. Others prohibit it. Researching local regulations is necessary before wild harvesting. Possessing ephedra plant material is legal. Selling it for human consumption is prohibited. The line reflects the same pattern seen with other traditional plants. Personal use is tolerated. Commerce is restricted. This legal situation means that anyone willing to learn traditional preparation methods can access ephedra despite the commercial ban. The knowledge exists in books, in online resources, and in communities that maintain traditional practices. The barrier is not legal prohibition, but the barrier is knowledge. Most Americans do not know that ephedra grows in their region. They do not know that cultivation is legal. They do not know that traditional preparation differs fundamentally from the concentrated supplements that cause problems. The ignorance serves commercial interests. As long as people believe ephedra is completely banned and unavailable, they remain customers for alternative products that generate profit. The comparison between traditional ephedra and commercial alternatives reveals uncomfortable truths. Pseudoephedrine, one of the alkaloids found in ephedra, remains legally available in cold and respiratory products sold in every pharmacy. The same compound banned in supplements continues generating profits for pharmaceutical corporations. The difference is control. Pharmaceutical products are manufactured, marketed, and sold by corporations that pay fees, follow regulations, and contribute to industry lobbying. Traditional plants growing in gardens generate no revenue, pay no fees, and contribute nothing to corporate profits. Synthetic caffeine combined with other compounds now occupies the market space that ephedra once filled. Energy products, focus supplements, and weight management formulas use synthetic stimulants rather than traditional plant preparations. These synthetic alternatives have their own adverse event reports, they cause their own emergency room visits, they create their own problems, but they generate profit for the right corporations, so they remain available. The ephedra ban did not make America safer. It made America more dependent on commercial products, while eliminating a traditional alternative that had worked safely for millennia. The regulatory pattern is consistent. Traditional plants that provide free alternatives to commercial products face restrictions. Synthetic products that generate corporate profits face minimal oversight. The system protects revenue, not wellness. The traditional knowledge of mahuang preparation deserves preservation regardless of commercial restrictions. The stems are harvested before the plant flowers, when alkaloid content is optimal. They are dried in shade to preserve beneficial compounds. Properly dried stems store indefinitely in cool, dark conditions. Traditional preparation uses approximately 1 to 2 grams of dried stem per cup of water. The stems are simmered gently, not boiled vigorously, for 10 to 15 minutes. Straining produces a tea that can be consumed warm or at room temperature. Traditional dosing is conservative. 1 cup provides noticeable effects. Traditional practitioners advise against consuming more than 2 cups daily. Use is limited to periods when support is genuinely needed, not as a daily habit. Contraindications observed over millennia include cardiovascular concerns, elevated blood pressure, anxiety, pregnancy, and nursing. People with these conditions avoided mahuang entirely. This traditional wisdom prevented most problems that commercial use ignored. The traditional approach also included what Chinese practitioners call combining and moderating. Mahuang was rarely used alone. It was combined with other plants that balanced its effects and reduced the possibility of adverse reactions. This holistic approach cannot be replicated with concentrated supplements. It requires understanding the plant as part of a system, rather than as a source of isolated compounds to extract and sell. The future of ephedra knowledge in America depends entirely on knowledge preservation and transmission across generations. The commercial ban will likely remain indefinitely, perhaps permanently. The industries that benefit from it have no incentive whatsoever to support reversal. The regulatory agencies that implemented it have no motivation to admit error or re-examine their conclusions. The status quo serves powerful interests who profit from the current arrangement, but the plant continues growing regardless of regulations. In Asian mountains where it originated, in American deserts where native species thrive, in gardens cultivated by knowledgeable people who understand what was lost when commerce corrupted tradition. The knowledge continues existing in traditional texts translated into English, in communities that maintain ancestral practices, in resources available to anyone willing to search. The choice between commercial dependence and traditional knowledge remains available despite every effort to eliminate it. 5,000 years of accumulated human experience carefully refined the use of this remarkable plant. 50 years of reckless commercial exploitation created the problems that justified banning it from American shelves. The timescales tell you everything about which approach deserves your trust. One plant, one tradition, one connection to ancestral wisdom stretching back to the dawn of civilization. The FDA banned products, not knowledge. They restricted commerce, not cultivation. They targeted profits, not plants. What grows wild naturally in American deserts cannot be regulated out of existence. What Chinese families have passed down for 50 centuries cannot be forgotten in 2 decades. What works cannot be permanently hidden by those who profit from alternatives. The plant is waiting patiently. The knowledge remains available for those who seek it. The choice between dependence and independence is yours to make. If this video helped you see what authorities hoped you would never discover, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss what we uncover next.